The blind daughter of an Arab billionaire never smiled, until the garbage man did something surprising. The sound of porcelain shattering against the wall echoed through the $15 million Beverly Hills mansion. Useless. Completely useless. Dr. Victoria Ashford's voice cut through the air like a razor. 3 years of therapy, $300,000, and this child is still locked in her own world. Noor al-Rashid, 7, was curled up on the velvet sofa, her hands covering her ears. Her brown eyes saw nothing. She was born blind due to a rare genetic condition, but her other senses picked up every nuance of that fury. The therapist's expensive perfume mixed with anger. The sound of heels clicking on marble. The tension as adults discussed her future as if she were a broken object. "Dr. Ashford, please lower your voice," asked Khalil al-Rashid, Noor's father. At 52, he was one of the richest men in the United States, owner of a chain of luxury hotels. But all that money couldn't buy what he wanted most: to see his daughter smile. Lower my voice? Perhaps it's time to consider a specialized institution. Victoria adjusted her designer glasses. Noor needs more intensive care. I know a clinic in Switzerland for difficult cases. Difficult cases. The words pierced Khalil like bullets. His daughter was not a case. She was a 7-year-old girl who had lost her mother in childbirth and was born without sight. A girl who never cried, never laughed, never showed any emotion. Leave. Khalil's voice was low, but with absolute authority. Excuse me. Get out of my house. Now. Victoria grabbed her bag with a sudden movement. When you realize you need real professional help, my fee will have doubled. She took one last look at Noor, as if observing a failed experiment, and slammed the door behind her. Khalil approached his daughter, knelt beside her, but did not touch her. He had learned that Noor could not tolerate physical contact. Habibi, it's okay. She's gone. Noor did not respond. She never did. She just continued rocking her body back and forth. It was Tuesday, 9:37 a.m. The exact time when everything would begin to change. Outside, the garbage truck made its weekly route down Rodeo Drive. Jacob Torres, 34, had been working as a garbage collector for 6 years. Before that, he had been a street musician in Venice Beach. His old guitar was tied to the back seat of the truck. That morning, Jacob was running late. As he emptied the bins at the al-Rashid mansion, he heard a muffled sound, like a wounded animal. He walked over to the side window. That's when he saw the girl. Noor was banging her hands against the window, her mouth open in a silent scream that no one but Jacob seemed to hear. Her father was on the phone in the other room. The child was completely alone in her despair. Jacob didn't think. He began tapping gently on the glass, creating a rhythm. 3 quick taps, 2 slow ones. Pause. 3 quick, 2 slow. It was a pattern he used when playing percussion on the guitar. Noor stopped immediately. Her hands were suspended in the air. She turned her head in the exact direction of the sound, her blind eyes focusing on something only she could perceive. Jacob continued. Then he added a third element. He stamped his feet on the floor, creating a bass line that complemented the rhythm. And then something happened that no one in that house had seen in 7 years. The corners of Noor's mouth curved upward. It wasn't a full smile, more of a promise, but it was there. Real. Unmistakable. She pressed her palms against the glass and began tapping too, trying to copy Jacob's rhythm. Clumsy at first, but with increasing coordination. "Sir, we have to go," shouted Mike, the truck driver, honking his horn. "We're late." Jacob hesitated. The girl was responding, connecting, for the first time probably in her life. How could he just walk away? But he had no choice. He gave the glass one last tap, 3 quick ones, 2 slow ones, and ran back to the truck. Noor heard the footsteps receding, the engine starting, the sound fading away. Her mouth opened in another silent scream, her hands returning to bang frantically on the glass. But this time it wasn't meaningless despair. It was a plea. A search. Khalil rushed inside. "Noor? What's wrong?" He looked outside and saw only the garbage truck turning the corner. What happened here? His daughter couldn't answer. She had no words. She never had. But something had awakened in her, a need, a connection that transcended language. Khalil spent the rest of that day and the next 2 trying to calm his daughter. Noor barely touched her food, refused water, didn't want to be held. She just stood by the window, tapping that rhythm. 3 quick, 2 slow. Over and over, until her little hands turned red. On Thursday night, when Noor finally fell asleep exhausted after 48 hours of practically no food, Khalil called every specialist he knew. None of them had an explanation. But Jacob knew it hadn't been random. There was something about that rhythm, that specific frequency, that had touched something deep within the girl. He couldn't stop thinking about her either. That almost smile. What neither of them knew was that 47-second encounter had planted a seed that would. Khalil frowned. So what? Noor started acting like this right after the truck passed. Teresa approached the window. Always at the same time. 9:30 in the morning. And that rhythm she does, it doesn't seem random. Khalil's heart raced. Could it be? He picked up the phone and called the city sanitation department. After 20 minutes of transfers and waiting, he got the name, Jacob Torres. Route 7B, covering Beverly Hills on Tuesdays. I need his address. Sir, we cannot provide personal information about employees. Khalil took a deep breath. I'm willing to make a $100,000 donation to the department. I need to talk to this man. It's about my daughter. Silence on the other end. Then, reluctantly, let me see what I can do. 2 hours later, Khalil was knocking on the door of a small apartment in East LA. Jacob opened it, still in his work uniform, smelling of garbage and sweat. His eyes widened when he saw the Arab man in a $3,000 suit standing in his hallway. Mr. Al-Rashid? How did you? Do you remember my daughter? Last Tuesday, at the window. Jacob turned pale. I didn't do anything wrong, sir. I just heard her banging on the glass and tried to calm her down. It was only a minute. She's barely eaten in the last 3 days. Khalil entered without being invited. She stands at the window tapping the same rhythm you did. 3 quick, 2 slow. Are you a musician? I was. I play. I used to play guitar on the streets. But that was years ago. I need you to come back. To try again with her. Jacob shook his head. Sir, I'm a garbage collector. I'm not a therapist. I have no training in any of that. My daughter has cost $500,000 in therapists over the last 3 years. None of them could make her smile. Khalil took out his wallet. How much do you make a month? This isn't about money. 3,000? 4,000. Khalil placed a blank check on the table. Write whatever amount you want. I just need you to try. Jacob looked at the check, then at Khalil. What if it doesn't work? What if I show up there and she doesn't respond? Then at least we tried. But Jacob had other fears. Fears he couldn't say out loud. He knew stories of people like him, poor second-generation Mexican immigrants, who got too close to wealthy families. The accusations that followed. The suspicions. Mr. Al-Rashid, with all due respect, our worlds are very different. If I show up at your house, your neighbors will call the police. Your social circle will have questions. Let them. Khalil stood up. My daughter is wasting away because something about you touched her. I won't let pride or prejudice get in the way. Jacob took the check, tore it up, and threw it away. I won't take your money. But I'll help. One try. If it doesn't work, you leave me alone. On Saturday morning, Jacob arrived at the mansion on his old motorcycle. The security guard almost didn't let him in. Khalil had to come to the door himself. Noor was in the music room, a room Khalil kept filled with expensive instruments his daughter had never played. She was on the floor, rocking, tapping that rhythm on her own legs. Can she hear me? Jacob whispered. I don't know. I never know what she hears or understands. Jacob approached slowly, sat down on the floor 3 meters away. He took a small wooden box out of his pocket, a makeshift cajon he had made himself. He began to tap. 3 fast, 2 slow. Noor froze. Jacob continued, adding variations. A low rhythm with his whole palm. A high-pitched one with his fingertips. A drum roll with his fingernails. Noor turned her head toward him. Slowly, she began to crawl. Khalil wanted to intervene, but Jacob gestured for him to stay quiet. The girl came closer, reached out, touched the cajon. She felt the vibrations. Then, for the first time in 7 years, Noor vocalized. It wasn't a word, it was a guttural, primitive sound, but it was communication. Jacob placed her hand on the cajon as he played. Feel that? That's how music speaks without words. Khalil watched with tears streaming down his face. His daughter was interacting. Really interacting. For 2 hours, Jacob worked with Noor. Different rhythms, different sound textures. She began to imitate him, tapping on the floor, on the walls, on her own belly. Creating a percussive dialogue. But outside the mansion, someone was watching. Dr. Victoria Ashford had returned to Beverly Hills to retrieve some equipment she had forgotten at another client's house. She saw the old motorcycle at the entrance to the Al-Rashid mansion. She saw through the window a clearly lower-class man sitting on the floor with Noor. Her blood boiled. Khalil had fired her, humiliated her, and now he was replacing years of her professional experience with what? A janitor? A cleaner? Victoria took out her cell phone and started taking pictures. She had connections, journalists, gossip blogs, child protection agencies. If Khalil wanted to play this game, she knew exactly how to destroy him. Inside the mansion, Jacob was teaching Noor to feel music through vibrations in the floor. He plugged his guitar into a small amplifier and played low notes that made the floor shake. Noor placed both hands on the floor and, for the first time since she was born, smiled. A full, genuine smile that lit up her entire face. It was at that moment that Jacob knew he couldn't leave anymore. And it was at that moment that Victoria knew she would destroy that man, whatever the cost. What neither of them realized was that the war that was about to begin would be fought not in courts or offices, but on the internet, where reputations are made and broken in 280 characters. The post appeared the following Monday, 5 days after that first session. Dr. Victoria Ashford had 47,000 followers on Instagram, mostly wealthy parents looking for elite therapists. The photo showed Jacob sitting on the floor with Noor, taken through the window. Alert: Billionaire puts blind daughter at risk with unqualified therapist. Khalil Al-Rashid fired certified professionals to hire a garbage collector. When money makes you think you can play with the life of a special child. Hashtag protect our children. Within 6 hours, it went viral. 15,000 shares. Comments exploded. Asterisk, this is a crime. Where are the child protection services? Asterisk. Asterisk, rich Arabs think they can do whatever they want. Asterisk. Khalil saw when the notification came in, a journalist wanting to interview him about allegations of negligence. His phone wouldn't stop ringing. Board members from his hotels demanding explanations. Mr. Torres needs to leave, said Robert Chun, Khalil's chief lawyer. Now. Before this becomes a criminal case. Khalil looked at the music room where Jacob was working with Noor. For the first time in weeks, his daughter had eaten a full meal. She was making sounds, trying to communicate through rhythms. No. But Jacob had already made up his mind. I saw the news. They're calling me a predator, an exploiter. My mother called me in tears. It's better if I disappear. It was Teresa who had the idea. What if we showed the truth? Recorded the sessions. Khalil understood immediately. He asked the technical team to install discrete cameras. On Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, they documented everything, Noor responding to the rhythms, smiling, vocalizing, eating normally. On Thursday afternoon, Victoria contacted the Child Protection Agency, alleging emotional manipulation of a disabled minor. The social worker showed up on Friday morning. Linda Morrison, 52, a 30-year veteran. She arrived with all the skepticism that 3 decades of social work can produce. I need to see the child. Alone. Khalil took her to the music room. Noor was with Jacob, the two of them drumming, creating a rhythmic dialogue. The girl was radiant. Linda watched for 20 minutes. She saw how Jacob read Noor's body language, respected her boundaries, how she actively sought interaction. How many therapists has she had before? 7, in the last 3 years. And how many achieved this level of engagement? None. Linda took notes, recorded videos. I'm closing the case. There's no negligence here. But Dr. Ashford won't stop. She's influential. You need something stronger. It was Teresa who had the second idea. The charity gala. The one you organize for children's hospitals. It's broadcast live, isn't it? The gala would take place the following Tuesday, exactly 2 weeks after their first meeting, broadcast to 200,000 viewers. Victoria always attended. She loved the exposure. Over the weekend, Khalil and Jacob prepared everything. They edited a 3-minute video showing Noor's journey, first apathetic, then responding to the rhythms, smiling. Time-stamped recordings, medical reports. Everything documented. The night of the gala arrived. Victoria was in a red dress, smiling for cameras, giving interviews about her pioneering work. Khalil took the stage. Tonight, I want to talk about my daughter Noor. The cameras focused. 200,000 people watching live. 2 weeks ago, a professional said Noor was a difficult case who needed to be institutionalized. He looked directly at Victoria. Dr. Ashford is here. Do you recognize these words? Victoria paled. Whispers exploded through the hall. But then something extraordinary happened. The giant screens lit up showing the video. Noor isolated. Then Noor with Jacob, smiling, interacting, thriving. A man society considers inferior, a garbage collector, did in days what years of expensive therapy failed to do. The video showed Victoria's posts, her accusations, side by side with images of Noor clearly happy and healthy. Dr. Ashford used her platform to destroy a good man because he exposed her failure. Victoria stood up, trying to leave, but the cameras followed her. Journalists surrounded her. A reporter held out a microphone. Do you confirm that you posted these accusations without checking the facts? I was concerned. Were you concerned or vindictive about being fired? The video continued, showing Linda Morrison's report confirming that Noor was receiving exceptional care. Then came testimonials from 3 other parents, all reporting lack of progress with Victoria, excessive charges, recommendations for premature institutionalization. In real time, Victoria's followers abandoned her. Comments flooded her social media demanding explanations. Hashtags formed, #Justice for Jacob, #Victoria exposed. Khalil finished. The real disability isn't in those who are born different. It's in those who judge people's worth by their bank account instead of their character. The audience erupted in applause. Victoria managed to leave, but the damage was done. Live, in front of 200,000 people, her reputation had been destroyed. By morning, 3 professional counsels were already opening ethical investigations, and 17 of her wealthiest clients had cancelled contracts. 6 months later, Jacob was sitting in the front row of a packed auditorium at the University of California. Not as a spectator, but as a guest speaker. Noor, who had turned 8 3 months earlier, was by his side. Her fingers drummed on the arm of the chair, 3 fast, 2 slow, the rhythm that had changed everything. The video of the gala surpassed 12 million views. The story made the front page of the Los Angeles Times and was featured on CNN. But the real changes happened away from the spotlight. Dr. Victoria Ashford had her license suspended for 2 years after a 3-month investigation. Dozens of families came forward with similar reports, exorbitant charges, questionable diagnoses, pressure to institutionalize. Her clinic closed. Last report, she was working as an online consultant, trying to rebuild a reputation that would never recover. Jacob never returned to garbage collection. Khalil officially hired him as Noor's music therapist, with a salary, benefits, and the condition that he complete formal certification. He was in his 2nd semester, studying at night while working during the day. The biggest transformation was in Noor. The girl who never vocalized now said 5 words: Papa, Jay, Tisa, more, and music. It wasn't much for an 8-year-old, but it was a universe of progress. She ate on her own, attended a specialized school, and had a friend, Sophie, another blind girl she met in adapted percussion classes. On stage, Jacob adjusted the microphone. When I met Noor, I was a garbage collector who thought music was just an abandoned hobby. She taught me that music is a language that transcends words, vision, or limitations. He looked at the audience of students, therapists, educators. But this isn't a story about me being a hero. It's about how we almost let prejudice destroy something beautiful. Khalil took the microphone. I've paid $500,000 for therapists over the last 3 years. Not because they were bad, but because they were stuck in protocols. Sometimes what's right isn't what's best. He looked at his daughter, tapping gently. Noor taught me humility. That degrees don't guarantee wisdom, and calloused hands can have the softest touch. Teresa brought Jacob's guitar, the one from the garbage truck. He began to play. 3 fast, 2 slow. Noor stood up, walked to the center of the stage, impossible 6 months ago, and began tapping her feet, adding her layer to the rhythm. The audience watched as father and daughter, united by sound, created something no manual could teach. The ovation was deafening. Noor covered her ears but was smiling. Afterwards, a student approached her. My brother is nonverbal autistic. We've paid fortunes and nothing works. Could you teach me? Jacob looked at Khalil, who nodded. Let's create a program. Free of charge. And they did. The Rhythm and Connection Foundation. Within 6 months, it was helping 40 children. In a year, there would be 200. Proving that unconventional approaches had a place alongside traditional medicine. Victoria tried to sue for defamation. The judge dismissed the case, citing that truth is not defamation. She disappeared from social media, from Los Angeles, from public life. Some said Arizona. Others, Europe. No one cared. That night, Jacob found Noor in the music room. She was on the floor surrounded by instruments, creating a chaotic symphony that only she understood. Jay, she said when she sensed him. She held out her hand. Jacob tapped that rhythm on her palm. 3 quick, 2 slow. Noor laughed. Pure, genuine sound. Khalil watched from the doorway with Teresa. You saved my daughter. No, Jacob replied. She saved me. I was invisible, doing work that society despises. Noor showed me that I had never given up on my dreams. I was just waiting for the right moment. The best revenge isn't destroying those who tried to bring you down. It's building something so great that they become irrelevant. Victoria tried to destroy Jacob using prejudice. He responded by changing the world, 1 child, 1 beat, 1 connection at a time. If this story touched you, subscribe to the channel and share it. Because somewhere, there is a child being called an impossible case by someone who gave up too easily. And there is a Jacob waiting to be discovered, not in mansions or expensive offices, but on the streets, in humble jobs, in places society has taught you not to look. True talent doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't need diplomas to validate its existence. It just needs a chance, and the courage of people willing to look beyond appearances. Victoria proved that credentials without compassion are worthless. Jacob and Noor proved the rest.